The sneaky way English weaves in soul agency and how it's subtly killing our leaders of tomorrow. Part 1. The pressure most people never touch. There's a kind of pressure that does not feel like stress. It is not overwhelm. It is not burnout. It is not exhaustion. It is the pressure of holding multiplicity together over time. Decisions that do not terminate in the self, choices that echo through institutions, families, cultures, and futures that will never fully appear. Responsibility that cannot be offloaded without consequence. Most people will never feel this pressure. That is why most advice is useless to those who do. Part 2. The category error that breaks leaders. When leaders fracture, the explanation is usually psychological. They were not resilient enough. They lacked discipline. They lost their grounding. They could not handle the heat. This explanation is comforting. It is also wrong. What breaks leaders is not weakness. It is misplacement. They are being asked to hold something real, conflicting values, compatible timelines, divergent needs, human fear under consequence. That load is not meant to be carried psychologically. See, this is not a psychological problem. It is an ontological placement error reinforced at the level of language. Part 3. How English quietly misplaces agency. English is not a bad language. In fact, it's one of my favorites. I love me some English, especially Black English. Shout out all my fellow nigga speakers. You know what I mean? English is not a bad language. It is a powerful one. And that is precisely the problem. English is an agent-first language. Its default syntax crowns the subject before the action. I built the company. I led the nation. I created the system. I healed the people. Grammatically, the self becomes the source, not as a belief, as structure. This is not about ego or arrogance. It is about what the nervous system is being trained to carry. When language repeatedly places the finite self in the role of origin, the body inherits ontological weight it cannot hold. Now, this is very important. Let me go down this rabbit hole, right? This will be our first Scriptōrium rabbit hole. All right, so follow me here. The problem with the digital renaissance in general these days is that the human nervous system is finite, but it's being asked to hold the infinite. It's being asked to hold infinite information from social media. It's being asked to hold infinite data, infinite emotion, infinite perspectives. Unfortunately, this is fracturing. See, the thing is, this phenomena isn't completely new. For the levers of civilization, for the statesmen, for the founders, for the religious leaders, for the people who have been leading hundreds, thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, millions of people throughout the span of time, they have felt this near infinite stress, this weight of feeling like if they don't carry it, it won't get carried. And so the problem is, this can get very sneaky, right? Because when we're talking about entire loads of people, right? When we're talking about nations or companies or religious organizations, these are entire complex units of unique selves. And if we're not careful about how we approach the organization of that multiplicity and how we can actually go about executing on our shared goals with that multiplicity. If we don't do that from a place of, hey, at the end of the day, God's got all the power. If we don't recognize that we are channels for the divine to create reality through, things start getting real bad because your mind and your body will start believing that you have to be the one to hold all this ontological weight. I have to be the one to lead hundreds of people, to lead thousands of people. I have to be the one to make sure that all of my employees are fed every single month. I have to be the one that helps these people come to God. I don't think you guys understand just how crazy that kind of sounds. Now, like, I'm an ontologist, right? So, like, when I hear those things, I'm just like, yeah, your ego's going crazy, dog. You don't know it, but it's like, obviously, you don't have that kind of power. You feel me? All you can do is allow the one power, love, to move through you, to transform reality through you. The problem is our words, they train our minds. And so if we're not careful about our language will affect our thoughts, and our thoughts are the direct creators of our reality. Right? I mean, you don't have to be into the woo-wah metaphysics like me to know that your mindset is the foundation of how you live your life. Everything starts in the mind. And so if that is fucked because your words are fucked, if your thoughts are fucked because your language is fucked, your reality is going to be fucked. Do you see why this is a problem? Awesome, let's continue. Let's finalize this section, actually. Grammatically, the self becomes the source, not as a belief, as a structure. This is not about ego or arrogance, right? This isn't like a conscious thought. It's an embodied belief, right? This is ingrained into your nervous system. Let me actually say this. So today it's, oh shit, nice. Let me just pause that here. Today it's January 31st, as I'm recording this. Scriptōrium penned itself into my pocket journal as an idea, as a polymath conscious consumption and creation platform on December 29th. All right, so it's been a little over a month at this point. And I've put maybe like 500 hours into this project, probably, because I'm a feral polymath and I'm a psychopath, and I love it here. Now, the thing is, about 3 days into me building Scriptōrium, right, me being obsessed and taken by the mission, I literally spent my entire 22nd birthday building this thing. Like my 30th, my 22nd birthday is December 30th. I literally spent all day working on Scriptōrium, all day, the whole thing, just the whole fucking day. And I loved every hour, every second. And then I went to the park and I smoked with my boy and I got drunk and it was lit. You know what I mean? About 2 or 3 days into me building Scriptōrium, I think this was actually New Year's. Maybe either the end of New Year's, so maybe like New Year's Eve or New Year's Day. I kind of had this realization where I was like, I'm not building Scriptōrium. Like, this isn't mine. Like, this is already a field that exists. And I kind of feel like Scriptōrium is already the reflective field of transformation that you choose to inhabit, right? Like, Scriptōrium isn't a platform. Like, Scriptōrium isn't this Substack platform, this Substack publication. Scriptōrium isn't version 0. Scriptōrium isn't even an app that's going to be version 1. Scriptōrium is a field of transformation. And the thing is, I've inhabited this field for basically all my life unconsciously, right? The field of polymathy, the field of holding multiplicity under tension. Intellectual polymathy, creative polymathy. In the last 2 years, for me, it's been spiritual polymathy, and I even got into linguistic polymathy. I don't really like the term polyglot. I call myself a linguistic polymath, you know what I mean? Sounds more elegant. Scriptōrium chose to like be birthed, and it was like, yo, I'm coming into the world, you're gonna midwife me. And I was just like, oh shit, all right, I'm here with you. You feel me? That's literally what happened, dog. And there's been times over the last month where I've caught myself being like, oh, you know, I made this. And then I just give the proper agency back to the creator. And I'm like, nah, I'm the channel. Like, no, this just moved through me. No. I'm not the healer, I'm the midwife. I am not the source, I'm the bridge. And I can't lie. As I've been attuning my language, I've been feeling just how powerful proper placement is in the nervous system. Right, let me give you this example. So last week, when I came up with the term ontological life support, I was chopping it up with Fire Eros, and Fire Eros had kind of given this suggestion of like, oh, he'd kind of said, this is the ontological medicine or something like that, or you're coming in with the ontological life support. And I was like, yo, that is the position right there. I am the ontological life support for the levers of civilization. I am the one who helps you place yourself correctly in reality so that you stop cracking under the pressure of holding multiplicity together under tension over time. You feel what I'm saying? And instead of cracking under the multiplicity, you start cohering under the multiplicity. Coherence under pressure. Oscillation in tension, not cracking under the pressure, right? And so, as I've been kind of coming into this myself, I had this moment. I was actually cleaning. I was cleaning the bathroom last week, and before I'd started, I was like chopping up with Fire Arrows, like I said, and that kind of like line of like, you know, ontological life support was kind of like in my mind, and I was like, yeah, bro, I'm really like an ontological surgeon. Like, bro, I be out here with the fucking precision. You feel me? Like, I get right to the shit. Right? I cut out all the bullshit and I leave nothing else. Nothing else. Except love. Except the law of love, baby. You feel me? And like, I was kind of thinking, and I was playing with that concept for maybe like not even 5 minutes. That's way too long. Maybe like 2 minutes in the bathroom, right? As I'm fucking spraying the bathroom with this fucking vinegary ass window cleaner and shit, or glass cleaner, right? And I'm smelling the vinegar. The vinegar's, you know, fuming into my nostrils and shit. And I'm like, yo, fuck all the bullshit. I am not the surgeon. I am the scalpel. And as soon as I said that, I was like, ooh, I am not the ontological surgeon. I am the ontological scalpel. It almost felt like a click happened like in my mind, my spirit, and my body all at the same time. And it was like, yes, Jaden, that's what you are. You are not the surgeon. That would imply that you're the one doing the operation. No, that's cap, because I'm not. I am not the one doing the operation. I am simply the sharp object that the surgeon uses to perform the operation. You feel what I'm saying? Jaden is the sharp object. That's it. Jaden's also the midwife, right? The ontological scalpel and the midwife. That's how Jaden brings the ontological life support. The ontological scalpel and the creative process midwife, I should say. That's how Jaden brings the ontological life support to the levers of civilization. And as I tune my own language, like as I say those things, Jaden's the ontological scalpel, it literally just feels correct in my body. Like I just feel like peace. I almost feel peace and excitement at the same time. It's like that resonance. You know when you hear something that's true, or you feel something that's true about yourself, and you're like, yeah, that's right, that's me. That's exactly how I feel when I say those words. Because trying to say I'm the surgeon is the crown's too heavy. That's too much power, right? Does a scalpel perform the surgery? No, the surgeon performs the surgery, right? The scalpel is a required tool, but it's, it's not the surgeon. You are not the surgeon. Please stop seeing yourself that way. I promise you, when you start seeing yourself as the tool, as the channel, as the instrument through which reality is transforming itself, as the vehicle through which love is experiencing itself, I promise your nervous system is going to relax. Fuck your mind. Fuck what your mind thinks. Your body is going to release the stress that you've been holding for what, the last like 2, 5, 10, maybe 20 plus years? Yeah. By the way, quick CTA. Name's Jaden, 22 years old. I'm a digital renaissance Da Vinci, basically. I'm a one-to-one advisor for human mission composites, right? The levers of civilization, statesmen, religious leaders, founders. And the thing is, I don't have the calcified stress that your nervous system does. And my nervous system is like elite at the oscillation game of like not holding, I'm like not folding under tension, right? I live in oscillation. I live in tension. And so if you go throughout the rest of this video and you're like, holy fuck, this Jaden guy's got some wisdom. Yeah, he does. You should follow along for the journey. And if you'd like my one-to-one advisory, you can fill out the form at the top link in the description, all right? Let us continue on our path. Oh yeah, we didn't end this. Let's re-end this actually. So, like we were talking about, this is not about ego or arrogance, all right? This is about what the nervous system is being trained to carry. And when language repeatedly places the finite self in the role of origin, the finite self is the source of power, the source of transformation, the source of love. The body inherits ontological weight it cannot hold. You're trying to hold infinite power and infinite capacity that your body was never able to hold. Like imagining that you are the source of power or the source of love is crazy. Power and love are both infinite and beyond the finite capacity. And so if you start believing that those infinite things are your finite thing to, wield solely, your body's going to start fucking up, bro. I promise. The collapse does not come from pride. It comes from syntax practiced under pressure. Here's what ancient languages did differently. Classical languages did not allow this mistake as easily. Latin, ancient Greek, and Sanskrit are not merely older languages. They are different grammars of reality. Now, this one's really important, so I need you to follow me here. Latin, ancient Greek, and Sanskrit encode relationship over position, action over agent, participation over authorship. We're going to get into examples soon. Agency is distributed. Causality is layered. Action often precedes identity. These languages force placement. They force proper relationship. They force you to see that reality is a coherent whole and that we all have a place in that coherent whole. And that misplacing yourself is a very, very large source of suffering. Latin, ancient Greek, and Sanskrit do not let the speaker erase conditions, forces, relationship, or source. This is not philosophy. This isn't something that the languages helped you think about better. It's literally the grammar of the language. We're going to break down an example with Scriptōrium's tagline. Pena amoris scribemos. It is often rendered in English as, we write with the pen of love. That translation is not wrong, but it is structurally misleading. What the Latin actually does is different. By the pen of love, writing happens. See, the thing is, in Latin, pena means by the pen. See, now the thing is, in English, that by, that like agent vehicle term, it gets yoinked to the we. It gets yoinked to the us, to the human. But the thing is, Latin actually isn't doing that, right? Pena is by the pen. Amoris, amor is love. Amoris is of love. Now, this is where things get real interesting. Because pena amoris in Latin is by the pen of love. And if you just translated pena amoris into English, it would be with the pen of love. By the pen of love. It's the same thing, honestly. It's the same exact thing, right? Love is the agent here. The thing is, once this third word of scribemos gets added, that's where English starts wilding, right? Because the thing is, in Latin, scribe, like scribo, that's writing, right? Now, the thing is, in Latin, all of Latin's nouns are inflected, right? So there's no like ego, or there's no, what's the Latin for we? Mons, right? There's no mons, like pena amoris, mons scribemos. That could be in there, but Latin often just doesn't have that, right? If you're a speaker of a Romance language, you know about this. Like in Spanish. In Spanish, if you say yo tengo or tú tienes, you don't need to say yo, because tengo already carries the I. Tienes already carries the tú. It's the same with Latin. But the thing is, scribemos is not we write. It's writing's happening, right? Like scribo is writing is happening. And then the agent, or really not the agent, because love is the agent, the participant is then named and kind of is just like tacked in at the end, right? Like here, the us. That is literally the we. This is what we is. Scribemos. If it was I write with the pen of love, it would be pena amoris scribo. And that would still be by the pen of love, writing is happening and I'm participating. That would be the most accurate assumption, like rendering of the Latin. The most accurate rendering of the Latin into English of pena amoris scribemos would be by the pen of love, writing is happening and we are participating. No crowned agent in terms of a separate self-agent, a person. Why? Because love is the agent. The pen is love's. It's love's pen. And it's writing through us. Writing is occurring, and we are participating in that writing. That the pen of love is doing. Words are kind of hard sometimes. Right, so by the pen of love, writing happens. There's no crowned agent. There's no isolated self. There's no ability for the mind to say, I am the one who is doing this apart from reality. Latin simply doesn't allow the mind to do it. This is why the ancients thought better. Have you guys ever wondered why like the classical antiquity was like such a profound time? You guys ever wonder why the Renaissance was such a profound time? It's because of these languages. I swear to God. When the Renaissance time, like when the Renaissance people went and learned these languages, Latin and Greek, they like their thought literally changed. And when your thought changes, your consciousness changes. When your consciousness changes, reality changes. The Renaissance didn't happen because, you know, like things were just happening out of nowhere. Like this wasn't a coincidence. This was because these languages were forcing precision in the minds of these men. And because they have the resources, at least a lot of the figures that we know from the Renaissance, they were funded through patrons. Because the patrons were able to fund these men, and because these figures, most of them were men, right? But because the patrons were able to fund these figures, and because they were transformed by these languages, society could no longer operate the same way. The Renaissance literally happened because classical antiquity was observed and the thought of classical antiquity was stepped inside of. I want to revive that same lineage that the Renaissance was pulling from, the same lineage of classical antiquity. of Latin, of ancient Greek, of the trivium, of the quadrivium, the liberal arts, when people actually were taught how to think, not what to think. When people were taught that reality is always happening, regardless of what you're observing. You can place yourself in that properly, you cannot. Regardless, it's going to occur. These languages, Latin, ancient Greek, Sanskrit, they forced the mind to perceive reality this way. And ever since we've lost these languages, ever since we drifted into modern languages that don't have these relational aspects encoded into the fucking syntax itself, into the grammar itself, we've corroded and we've lost that. And now our education system is just fucking garbage. And it's like, hey, think these things, right? Our languages are fucking us. Our education system is fucked. It's all just trash. And if that shit pisses you off, come build this shit with me. Because holy fuck, it drives me nuts every day. And that's why I wake up and pour fucking 10 to 12 hours into Scriptōrium every day. And into my mission every day. By the pen of love, writing happens. No crowned agent, no isolated self. Love is the mover. The pen is the instrument. Writing is the event. The human is the participant. The sentence does not say who is great. It says what is true. Part 5. Why the Renaissance recovered power. Or part 6, rather. The Renaissance did not happen because people suddenly became smarter. It happened because they returned to languages that placed reality correctly. When scholars immerse themselves in Latin, Greek, and Hebrew, their thinking restructured. Not morally, not ideologically. No. All that's downstream. Their thinking restructured ontologically. They stopped unconsciously claiming the role of source. Remember when I told you guys about that with my story? That only happened because I started studying Latin at the end of November of 2025. They stopped unconsciously claiming the role of source, and from that correction, art reemerged, science stabilized, philosophy regained depth. Their grammar would not allow them to pretend they were the infinite. Let's just pause. Let's pause here, actually, because this is actually a very important part. The reason that the Renaissance happened is because ontologically, their minds stopped allowing them to be the source. And when that happens, the only other choice is to surrender and be the channel. It's to surrender and be the instrument. And when man surrenders, beautiful things happen. Michelangelo quite literally painted the Sistine Chapel. Do you guys know how fucking, do you guys ever think about how fucking insane that is? What the fuck? The amount of surrender and rigorous devotion that would have been required for that kind of feat, that is something that comes when reality is knocking, and the only way to stop it from driving you crazy is to pick up the paintbrush and paint. That's it. Because once you know that you're the instrument, once you know that reality wants to transform itself through you, once you know reality wants to experience its own love through you, it wants to admit and express its own love through you, art. It wants to know its own love through its exteriority, science. It wants to realize its own love through its interiority, philosophy. Once you realize that you are not the source and that you are the instrument, you stop trying to make things happen. and you simply allow the things that were already happening to move through you. I've literally put 500 hours into Scriptōrium, probably more, in the last month. The month. This hasn't been discipline. This has been feral, polymathic devotion to art, science, philosophy, and the pursuit of transmitting wisdom so that people can know the love of God. This is the only thing that matters to me. And so I wake up barely sleeping. I've barely slept in the last month. I've maybe slept like 4 hours a night. That's really a stretch. I've had maybe 5 nights where I've gotten more than like 6 hours of sleep. Most days, it's like 3, 4. Some nights, 2. Because I'm this taken by the mission. I'm this taken by the call. Because when the call knocks, and I know that the only other choice is to answer or feel the resistance that arises when I don't allow reality to move through me, I simply stop choosing the latter because I suffered from it too long. I suffered the pain of not embracing my artistic nature for 10 years. I was too deep in the science, in the exteriority. I didn't know the truth of the interior in the interior world. I was always a philosopher at heart, always a poet at heart, but I wasn't actualized in these things. Only in the last 2 years did I really find these things again. And only in the last few months did I recohere all art and science and philosophy into one thing, because they were never separate. Because all of them were about the one knowing itself and loving itself through us, through the world. The Renaissance, mystics, polymaths, figures, the people who changed the world, they knew this. And because they knew this consciously, they stopped unconsciously claiming the role of source. I want to bring us back to that lineage. The quiet error leaders make under pressure. Under sustained responsibility, nearly every leader makes the same move. Not consciously, structurally. They begin to speak as if they are the source. If I do not hold this, it collapses. If I step back, everything fails. If I loosen my grip, people suffer. From a moral angle, this sounds noble, and it is. From a structural angle, an ontological angle, it is catastrophic. Because the moment the finite self tries to become the infinite, the nervous system inherits a load it cannot metabolize. Section 8. Ontological law does not negotiate. There is only one ontological law. Love is what is. Period. Not sentiment, not morality, not virtue. No. Love as infinite coherence, non-coercive unity, the condition that allows differences without collapse. The very ground of existence, that which all being permeates from. That is love. And so any system that requires coercion to stabilize, exclusion to function, sacrifice of being to survive, is misaligned with reality. It may persist, it will not remain coherent. Leaders do not fail because they lack goodness, usually the opposites. They fail because their language trains them to violate the law under pressure. At a macro scale, at a micro scale, this is okay. I'm cleaning the dishes. I'm walking the dog. I'm drying my hair. Yeah, who really gives a fuck? Sure. But at the macro scale, if I don't do this one thing and pull through, thousands of people who depend on me for their livelihood to feed their families, they're fucked. You see how that's the same source of problem? Claiming agency that actually was never yours? Claiming power and responsibility that was actually never yours to fully hold. It just manifests at a 1 billion x scale. When it's not at the 1 billion x scale, the nervous system doesn't really react. It doesn't even notice. As it is at that scale, and it calcifies over time, it turns people who had genuine hearts of gold into people who can do nothing but fold under the pressure. This is how people start as visionaries and founders and end up as corrupted businessmen. This is how people start in as, politicians with heart for gold, statesmen that want to change, and end up realizing the reality of the game and collapsing under the pressure. The religious leaders that start, preaching, whether it's their church or their monastery, whatever, with a heart to bring people to the love of God. But then eventually, once they began, having people who relied on them, it was, if I don't show up for these people, they don't come to God. And it's so sneaky. It's so sneaky. But you don't even realize that you're claiming God's responsibility. And because of that, your nervous system starts fucking crashing. Part 9. God damn it. You do not need new beliefs. You need new placements. This is the pivot. The solution is not affirmations, not better self-concepts, not stronger will. It is replacement. Instead of, I built this, try, this emerged, and I participated in its building. For me, I don't say I built Scriptōrium or I'm building Scriptōrium. I say I'm midwifing Scriptōrium. I am participating in the emergence of Scriptōrium. That's how you do it. Instead of, I saved the organization, try, preservation occurred, and I served as an instrument. Right? Instead of, I was the one who saved these people, say, these people were healed or these people were saved. Salvation happened to these people, and I was a channel for that salvation. Instead of, I carry everything, try, I stay aligned so coherence can move. Instead of, if I don't do this, no one else will, it's, I have a unique position to allow reality to move through me, and when I stay aligned with it, reality transforms itself through me in beautiful ways. This is not semantic nicety. This is nervous system hygiene. Number 10. This is about me, by the way. A case study in real time. Oh, I told you guys about this, actually. Over recent weeks, one builder working inside Latin noticed something precise. When language shifted toward participation rather than authorship, the body settled. This was me telling you guys about midwifing. When language implied sole agency, tension returned. The correction was not ideological, it was somatic. Eventually, a clear function emerged. Not healer, not savior, not source. Instrument. At times, midwife. At times, scalpel. Always subordinate to love. The peace did not come from humility as a virtue. It came from correct placement. Part 11. Why this matters for the levers. For statesmen, founders, religious leaders, at this level of responsibility, words are not decoration. Right? You remember the example of blow drying your hair? Like, oh, I'm blow drying my hair. At that level of reality, who the fuck cares? It doesn't matter. At the level of the game that you're operating at, words shift reality. They are tools of consciousness. Language shapes perception. It trains the nervous system. It distributes the ontological load. If your grammar crowns you as source, your body will attempt to carry infinity. And it will fail. Over and over and fucking over again. Not because you are insufficient. Because you were never meant to be the infinite. Closing of part 1. The quiet relief. There is a relief that comes when this lands. You are not required to carry reality, only to stay aligned with it. Clarity does not come from force. It comes from placement. Those who need this will recognize it immediately. Everyone else will have already clicked off the video. This is how coherence preserves itself. Pena amores escrevemos. Yo, we out here. All right, let's get on to part 2, baby. The sneaky way English weaves in soul agency. Part 2. How syntax turns leaders into false sources. And how to undo it. Syntax, the ontological infiltrator. A leader can be virtuous and still fracture. A founder can be brilliant and still distort the field. A spiritual guide can be sincere and still transmit misplacements. Not because their heart failed, because the language did. I learned this firsthand myself back in 2024 when I first started teaching metaphysics. Problem was, I was teaching from contact, right? Like, I mean, I'll be real, guys. I've been into metaphysics and mysticism for going on 2 years. It was April of 2024 that I started learning. And I was taken by the field. And the thing is, I was taken by metaphysics because I already knew a lot of the principles. Because I'd already been so obsessed with art and with science as a kid, with psychology, with relationships, with attachment styles, I started seeing all these principles from a cosmic perspective. And I was like, oh, that's just this, but at this level of reality. Oh, okay, cool. Me learning metaphysics was basically just pattern recognition simulator, honestly. And the thing is, I had to learn that since I was inside of the field and speaking from contact, and I hadn't stepped outside of the field and integrated that contact, integrated that wisdom into my body to truly hold all the nuance, to truly be precise with my language, I realized I was transmitting things that weren't necessarily false, but weren't fully accurate, that didn't capture the full nuance of the human experience, that were speaking from a place of, I think this is true, rather than I know this is how it is. And so I stopped. And after like a year of posting on YouTube from like May 2024 throughout April 2025, I literally stopped posting on that YouTube channel, stopped posting on my original Substack page. I literally just pulled the plug. And I got into the dark and I built and I integrated. And I let reality transform me. I let how reality had already transformed me rearrange itself and rearrange me internally. And it did. And now I've gone to the place where my metaphysics are so on point. I genuinely believe I honestly don't think there are other people on the planet who are as good at articulating metaphysics as I am. Like my balls are that huge with this shit, if I'm gonna keep it a buck. There are people who can talk shit and who know their shit. But when I'm talking about distinguishing the layers of reality and applying them to your real life and to hella different domains, Jaden's got that shit in the bag. Just gonna toot my own horn right there. Very important. Very, very important. So let's run this back. A leader can be virtuous and still fracture. A founder can be brilliant and still distort the field. A spiritual guide can be sincere and still transmit misplacement. I learned that firsthand. Not because the heart failed, because the language did. Not the vocabulary, even. Not even the words themselves. The ordering. The syntax. Syntax is not grammar trivia. Syntax is the choreography of causality. It trains perception. It trains responsibility. It trains what source feels like. And English, quietly, subtly, sneakily, constantly, tends to place the human voice in the role of origin. That single habit, repeated for years at scale, becomes a nervous system theology. Part 1, or section 1. The real problem isn't ego. It's ontological misplacement encoded as normal speech. Most conversations about leadership collapse into psychology. Insecurity, control issues, fear of failure, imposter syndrome, attachment. Sometimes those are present. Often they're downstream. The load that breaks levers is not emotional fragility. It is ontological weight carried in the wrong place. The signature error looks noble in public language. If I don't carry this, it collapses. If I step back, people suffer. It's on me. I have to hold it all. It does sound noble. You know, you sound like a knight. And those sentences are not merely descriptive. That's the problem. They are placement spells. They appoint a finite nervous system to perform an infinite function. And then everyone acts surprised when the body starts shaking. Interesting. Section 2. Syntax is where ontology hides. Word order trains the nervous system in who is the source. Every language teaches a metaphysic, not as doctrine, as reflex. In English, default syntax privileges agent-first reality. I did this. We built that. He made it happen. She changed the world. This does not automatically imply arrogance, but it does quietly train the nervous system toward a single orientation. The human voice as prime mover. That orientation is tolerable for small tasks. Right. Remember? Blow drying our hair. I'm blowing drying my hair. Yeah, no one gives a fuck. That's fine. It becomes catastrophic at scale. Because the levers of civilization don't just do projects. They carry time. They carry consequence. They carry multiplicity. Their words become policy, culture, theology, institution. When syntax repeatedly crowns the agent, the body learns to stand where only the infinite can stand. Not by choice, by repetition. It's not even a conscious decision that your mind has. It's a, over time, unconscious training that your body picks up. That's the problem. Oh man, this is good. This one is heat. Section 3. the crown problem. The unique self has a crown, but it cannot wear the universe. I want you to sit with that one for a second. You have a crown. You cannot wear the crown of the cosmos. The goal is not to abolish personhood. The goal is not to deny leadership. The goal is not to dissolve the unique self into fog. In fact, quite the opposite. It's to empower the unique self to place themselves properly in reality so that they can allow love to move through them and transformation to move through them. The unique self does have a crown. It holds the weight of its representation, the particular vocation, the particular gifts, the particular stewardships, the particular, yes, love chose for this life. The distortion is subtler. The crown of unique self gets asked to wear cosmic weight. I mean, just think about it. Imagine trying to hold the weight of the earth on your head. You know what I mean? It's like, the fuck? Are you Superman? No. Now take that and then multiply that by all of the cosmos. Because what you don't realize, what you never realize when you're saying I have to do it is I have to have all of the power to make this happen. The problem is your mind and your body always know that will never be the case. That's why it feels bad, because it's misperception. It's not true. That's why you need to replace yourself properly. The crown of unique self gets asked to wear cosmic weight. This is not a moral failure. This is misplacement. English makes that misplacement easy to repeat because it keeps placing I in front of everything that matters. I mean, shit. If I is in front of it and it matters, then I'm the one who made it matter, right? Makes sense. That's the slippery slope. Part 4, Section 4. This is my first time recording one of these case study commentaries, so bear with me. A single phrase that reveals the whole system. Pena, amores, scribemos. We talked about this earlier, but we're going to get a little deeper into it about. We're going to recover it. Scriptōrium carries a line. Pena, amores, scribemos. A lazy translation engine will offer, we write with the pen of love. And that's not wrong as a surface rendering, but it smuggles in an entire metaphysic. We as agent, right? Like me and you, the human as agent, we're the ones with the power doing the thing. Love as aesthetic flavor, right? The pen of love, it's, it just looks cute. It's the pen, but the love, it's, oh man, it's FMC is nice. The pen is the accessory, right? But the Latin placement is different. If you remember earlier, that's not how Latin encodes this at all. That's not what Latin is saying. It allows the sentence to be felt as, by the pen of love, writing happens through us. By love's instruments, we are drawn into the act of writing. See, that's not just poetic. That's ontologically accurate. The reason beautiful poetry that hits your soul and makes you feel properly placed in reality, the reason that aesthetics feel good is because they're aligned with truth. The reason the rhetoric of by the pen of love, writing happens through us, or by love's instruments, we are drawn into the act of writing. The reason that settles your nervous system and makes you feel calmer and more correctly placed in reality is because it's ontologically more true. This is not pedantry. This is ontological placement encoded as grammar. So here's the core shift. English default. Agent, action, world. Right? There is me, the agent. I'm doing this thing. The world is getting inflicted by me. Latin, potential, is the instrument / force, then the action, then participation. Right? So the instrument and the force are the agent. The action is kind of the same. But the thing is, the action world, so like, we write with the pen of love, right? That would be we write with, and then like, writing with the pen is like action to world, right? It's like, here's us, the agents, and as we are writing, the world is being affected, right? So it's like, we are the cause of the world's change. Okay, that's what English sneakily says. Latin says there is an instrument or force, there is an action occurring, I am participating. That's a completely different metaphysic. That's a completely different ontology. Latin doesn't have to announce, stop being egoic. It simply places the event differently, and the body recognizes it. Little recap. Section 5, why the ancients thought differently. Their languages forced relationship. Classical languages, right, like Latin, ancient Greek, Sanskrit, didn't make people holy by magic. They made certain distortions harder to sustain. Inflection, cases, and flexible word order mean relationship is carried inside form, right? Like, let me actually give you an example. Pena amores scribemos. By the pen of love, by the pen of love, we write. You can put any of these words any way you want. It could be amores pena scribemos. Of the pen of love. Writing is happening through us. Man, see, that's so interesting. Like, amores pena scribemos. Like, the thing is, it doesn't actually really change the meaning. It just changes the emphasis, right? Like, pena amores scribemos puts more emphasis on the pen. Amores pena scribemos puts more emphasis on amores. It's the same, like, it's still the same thing. It's just what angle do we want to perceive it from? That's what Latin does. Unfortunately, most modern languages that don't hold relationship inside of the sentence collapse that ability to perceive the relationship of the words and the relationship of how all the things were relating from multiple perspectives. Right? Like, we write with the pen of love can't get reordered to the pen of love we write. No, like, we can, you could say the pen of love we write with. But that still means the same thing. It just sounds a little different. You know? But like, you can't say like, I can't just say the pen of love writes me with something like that, right? Like, in English, you can't perceive and emphasize different perspectives by manipulating word order as much, because most English and most modern languages are linear rather than relational, right? Like, me saying we write with the pen of love, like, with the pen of love, requires you to understand like what the fuck does who's the context, you know what I mean? Like what is the pen of love? Like, you feel what I'm saying? But like with the pen of love in Latin is pena amoris. And it's like that's already a full sentence right there. By the pen of love in Latin is not really a full sentence, but it's a phrase. And it makes sense in Latin. But in English, it doesn't really. Because English isn't seeing reality relationally. And that's the problem. Right? Like most modern languages aren't, rather. It's not just an English thing. English is just the language that I'm using as an example because I speak it. And most people do. Inflection, cases, and flexible word order mean relationship is carried inside form. Agency is not always isolated as a crowned I. Action is not always framed as possession. The sentence can foreground instrument, cause, context, or condition. This isn't romantic nostalgia. This is mechanics. A language can be a discipline of perception. No, not can be. A language is a discipline of perception. And when perception is disciplined, mysticism stops being decoration and becomes what it actually is: interior contact with what is real. Section 6. The levers don't need new beliefs. They need new placement. If you're a statesman, if you're a founder, a religious leader, if you're someone who already has agency and already has a strong mind, like, you don't need new beliefs about the world. You need to start placing yourself correctly in how reality's already moving. At scale, belief is cheap. Belief can be performed. Belief can be inherited. Belief can be used as armor. Placement can't be faked for long because the body tells the truth. A lever can say, God is the source, and still speak in a syntax that makes the self the generator of coherence. You can say God is the source, but still say, I am the one that brings you to God. Or you come to God through me. Or I help you come to God. No. You are an instrument through which God through which God brings God's people to. Fuck. Words are not working. Give me a sec. You are an instrument through which people come to God. So it's not, if you don't come through me, you're not getting to God. It's, God placed me in this person's life or in reality to be a connection between them and between God, or between reality and between God. That's what it is. Instead of seeing yourself as the source, right? The thing is, like, the problem is, like, let me give you this analogy, and then this will probably help it click. The problem is, you're trying to be like the generator that like generates the like electricity, instead of being the wires or like the jumper cables, right? So like, you're trying to be, actually, let's say this, right? Like, let's say there's two cars, right? One car is, the infinite source, and the other car is reality. It's a person. It's whatever reality wants to transform through you. The problem is, when we believe that we are the source, we believe that we are the car that's generating the electricity that the other car is now starting from. When in reality, we're just the jumper cables. And if you don't realize that you're the jumper cables, you're going to be too busy believing that I have to generate all this power and electricity, when that's just not true. All you have to do is allow it to move through you when the time comes. you see what I'm saying? This is very important to understand. A lever can say God is the source and still speak in a syntax that makes the self the generator of coherence. That mismatch is where fracture begins. Not because anyone is evil. No. This isn't like an evil intent thing. This is an unconscious recognition or an unconscious behavior. So it's not because anyone is evil. It's because the nervous system can't hold contradiction forever. Your body knows when you're lying. And so when there's contradiction in reality versus what you're telling your mind and your body starts reacting and it starts retaliating. And so the correction is not think positive. The correction is not humble yourself harder. The correction is not manifest more. All that fucking stupid ass shit. The correction is placement. The infinite is source. The human is participant. You are the jumper cables, all right? Jumper cables. The mission is expression under constraint. Language is the interface that either keeps this order intact or breaks it. The mission is God using your jumper cables to start up reality, to transform. The problem is when your language starts making you believe that you have to be the car and the generator of the electricity rather than the jumper cables, shit starts going left. Section 7, practical repair. A rhetoric of participation instead of sole agency. The repair is not to erase agency. It is to refuse the lie of solitary agency. So, the easy thing to do is to swap ownership speech of me, I have this is mine, blah, 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 for participation speech. Simple. Not as a gimmick, not as something cute to do, but as an ontological hygiene practice that will actually help your body start lifting the weight that it was previously carrying. I need you to do these, do these live. If you hadn't done these at the end of last one, I need you to do these with me. Think of your own, all right? Examples. I built this company to this company emerged, and I participated in its building. I carry this institution to this institution is being carried through time, and I hold my role inside that carrying. I have to hold it all together becomes multiplicity must be held together, and the question is what alignment requires of my part. I save them goes to something was preserved, and service was the channel. This is not passivity. This is precision. And it's this kind of precision that you need at the level that you're playing at if you're a lever. Because if you don't have this kind of precision, your body's going to keep fighting you. And you're not going to be able to actually emit from a place of conscious alignment. And so the people that you're affecting and that your mission is serving, they're going to receive your distortion. And now you can't even say anything about it. Now you know. So you can't even ignore this. Now you just be full of shit. So, yeah. Get called out. Motherfucker. Oh well. This is not words are hard. This is not passivity. It is precision. It restores reality to what is relational, layered, participatory, alive. Section 8. Why this changes everything under pressure. Because syntax shapes what the body thinks it must become. Sustained consequence doesn't just strain the mind. It reveals ontological posture. If language keeps training the body to be the origin, the body will attempt it. And then the familiar symptoms appear: hypervigilance, compulsive control, collapse of rest, fear of silence, inability to release without guilt, decision fatigue that feels spiritual. The person thinks the problem is, quote, stress. Fools. The deeper problem is that the self has been unconsciously appointed to an infinite job description. No finite container can perform that role for long. Section 9. This is rigorous mysticism. Not fog, not vibes, not aesthetic transcendence. Mysticism is not a costume. It is not an argument style. It is not a permission slip to avoid structure. Mysticism is reality known interiorly. And interior knowing requires rigor because distortion is easy. Real fucking easy. A lever doesn't need more spiritual language. A lever needs language that does not quietly move them into false sourcehood. That is why this is not merely a writing tip. It is a form of ontological life support. Because speech trains the nervous system. Right? Your words affect your thoughts affect your mind affects your body. And so your words affect your body. Very simple. Speech trains the nervous system, and the nervous system determines whether thinking remains possible under consequence. This is the thing. Like, you guys think that, like, people at the top, religious leaders, founders, statesmen, they start collapsing because they're like evil or something. No, they start collapsing because their nervous systems stop allowing their minds to think clearly. Because they are taking on load that they were never meant to carry. You gotta let that shit go. If you'd like help, I can help your externalized nervous system. Section 10. The quiet relief. When placement corrects, something relaxes that the mind didn't know it was gripping. The relief is not less responsibility. It's truer responsibility. Not carrying reality. Not impersonating the infinite, not wearing the universe as a crown, pretending that you're God, like this delusional spiritual motherfuckers be doing. Nah. Just alignment. Participation. Just the clean recognition that by the pen of love, the work moves. The instrument is used. The act becomes possible. That's not woo-wah. That's what coherence feels like when syntax stops lying. Let's get on to part 3, baby. Yo, I didn't like this one. Always be your first supporter. Let's get it. The sneaky way English weaves in soul agency. Precision is what emerges when you refuse to collapse nuance. Oh, wait, I forgot to say part 3. Fuck it. Premature collapse is not wisdom. There's a quiet lie circulating among people who carry weight. It says that precision comes from choosing one thing, one position, one answer, one side, one story that resolves the tension and lets everyone breathe again. That lie feels responsible. It feels adult. It feels like leadership. It is also the fastest way to lose contact with reality. For those responsible for nations, institutions, companies, or souls, collapse masquerading as clarity is one of the most dangerous habits there is. Precision has been misdefined. Precision is commonly treated as decisiveness, certainty, speed, clean resolution. This definition works for systems with low consequence. It fails completely for those who must hold multiplicity over time. Because the truth is simple and uncomfortable, precision is not the elimination of tension. Precision is fidelity to reality, while tension remains. Reality does not arrive pre-resolved. Reality arrives layered, conflicted, in motion. Precision does not choose prematurely. Precision waits without drifting. Why this is harder for levers than anyone else. Most people experience ambiguity as discomfort. Levers experience ambiguity as risk. For a statesman, unresolved tension threatens legitimacy. It threatens their ability to seem connectable and relatable to their people. It threatens their ability to actually feel like their people understand their pain and their comfort and their tension. For a founder, it threatens momentum. Staying in ambiguity threatens the movement forward. For a religious leader, it threatens meaning. If you have to be sure so that you can help people, what happens when you're not sure? Because the mystery barely reveals itself in certainty. So the pressure to collapse is constant, to decide, to define, to close the loop. But deciding is not the same as discerning. Discernment requires time inside tension. Collapse avoids it. Precision versus collapse. Collapse resolves too early, trades coherence for relief, and replaces reality with narrative. Precision holds opposing truths simultaneously, allows contradiction to inform structure, waits for coherence to emerge. Collapse feels strong. Precision feels slow. But only one survives contact with reality. Which one would you prefer? Personally, I'm a guy who likes the latter. How precision actually looks in the real world. The form changes, the law does not. Below is what precision looks, where it actually matters. For statesmen, precision as holding the nation without flattening it. The statesman is asked to hold incompatible values, competing histories, divergent futures, fear expressed as certainty. Collapse looks like false binaries, ideological hardening, moral theater disguised as leadership. Precision looks like refusing to speak before legitimacy stabilizes, holding policy tension without narrating unity, letting contradiction shape design rather than be erased. A precise statesman does not rush to coherence. They incubate it. They understand something rare, that unity imposed too early fractures later. Their restraint is not weakness, it is structural intelligence. I mean, look at the founding fathers. The founding fathers had to literally tear apart the original, the 13 colonies were originally like 13 separate countries. And their government, quote unquote, wasn't really a government, was 13 separate colonies. It was more of like an international organization. They all band together for like a cause of, freeing themselves from the British, from the tyranny of King George. Thing is, it took a long time for them to actually get to a point of being like, all right, now we can finally do this constitution thing. Because holy fuck, there were so many compromises that had to be held. There was so much multiplicity that had to be held under tension. And it was the founding fathers' ethic to refuse to collapse that, to compromise, that America was founded on. Now, unfortunately, most people don't recognize that founding fathers' ethic. But if you're a statesman, you should. For founders, precision as letting the company become what it is. Founders collapse when vision turns rigid, when speed replaces listening, when clarity becomes control. The founder feels pressure to be right, to move fast, to simplify for others. But premature clarity kills living systems. Precision looks like holding vision and feedback in dialogue, resisting the urge to force alignment, allowing the product, the market, and the team to speak back and to actually hear them. A precise founder does not dominate emergence. They stay in conversation with it. This is the difference between companies that evolve and companies that calcify around the certainty of their creator. For religious and spiritual leaders, precision as guarding mystery without dilution. Religious leaders collapse when paradox is flattened into doctrine. Mystery is replaced with explanation. Silence feels irresponsible. Precision looks like holding transcendence and immanence together, allowing unanswered questions to remain alive, refusing to resolve what must be lived. True spiritual authority does not close mystery, it keeps it intact. Faith is not certainty, belief is not control. Clarity does not require closure. A precise religious leader holds the infinite without trying to contain it. The common failure pattern. Across every domain, collapse happens when the leader tries to be the source. Tension is treated as error. Silence feels dangerous. Precision returns when reality is allowed to lead. The leader becomes participant, not origin. Right? Remember the jumper cables. Oscillation is trusted. This is not abdication. This is correct placement. This one's really important. I want to hit on this. We already talked about like the jumper cables thing in terms of like the leader trying to be the source, but tension being treated as error and silence being felt as dangerous, these are two of the most important ones. Because if you don't realize that oscillating under tension is the only place where true insight and precision emerges, you will never be wise. I don't give a fuck. All right? If you haven't learned this, you just had a 22-year-old spit wisdom to you that I learned in like, I don't know. Actually, I've known this since I was like 9, if I'm going to keep it a stack. Now, I didn't know this consciously, but you know. Here's the thing, bro. Not knowing is a part of life. Tension is the generative principle that allows union to be realized. See, the thing is, tension, oscillation, it's moving between two poles, right? That's what holding multiplicity is. It's holding opposites, holding poles, holding multiple perspectives. And the thing is, this can be very hard because holding multiple perspectives requires not judging either of them, not separating either one of them from yourself, and staying in the unknown long enough with both of them for something third to emerge from in between. That's how true synthesis actually works. That's how true integrated wisdom is actually spit. Most people can't do that shit. That's why the world fucking sucks. That's why most information doesn't have depth. Because it's not coming from integration. It might not even be coming from fucking contact. They might not even be in the field. They might just be looking at it. Just fucking yapping. Tension is not error. Tension is the sign that you're on the path. Silence isn't danger. Silence is the prerequisite to being able to speak with precision. If you don't understand these things, you will never be a successful lever. Not how you want to be. I promise. If you have a mission that God has on your heart, but you can't hold tension or stay in the silence, I promise you, you got much bigger problems than paying your employees or bringing people to God or helping other people, feel represented. You need to get your shit together or you're going to be fucked. All right, cool. Precision is not a technique. You cannot apply precision. You cannot manufacture it. You cannot optimize it. Precision is an emergent property of staying relational under pressure, right? This is what I just explained to you. It appears when both poles are held, neither is denied, and the leader does not flinch. This is why it cannot be faked. This is why it cannot be taught through frameworks alone. This is why most people never develop it. They collapse too soon. The immediate shift. If you lead at scale, this is actionable now. Stop forcing clarity. Stop trying to resolve tension. Stop narrating certainty. Instead, name both truths. Hold both poles. Allow the delay. Surrender. Just allow them to exist without having to know. Stay relational. Stay inside the tension. Oscillate under the tension. Because coherence arises from the pressure that is lived in the oscillation under the tension. Oscillation under tension, coherence under pressure over time. That is the art. That is the alchemical process. This is not passivity. This is discipline. Why this changes everything. Those who need this will feel it immediately. I mean, if you're still watching this video, then you know it. Not as inspiration, as relief. Because something heavy just dropped. Precision does not come from choosing harder, from willing your mind into it more. No, that's wrong. You're wrong. It comes from holding longer. Those who can do this become anchors under pressure. Everyone else keeps collapsing and wonders why nothing holds. Let's go. Let's wrap this up, baby. I like this one too. Oh yeah. The sneaky way English weaves in soul agency, part 4. Why some weight cannot be held alone, and why high pressure oscillation often collapses without a witness. The underground assumption decaying at the levers of civilization. There is a quiet lie circulating among capable people. It sounds noble. It sounds strong. It sounds like integrity. The lie is this. If I were really grounded, I would be able to hold this alone. And sometimes that's true. Often at scale, it isn't. And the difference has nothing to do with weakness. Oscillation is real. Rhythm is personal. Every human being oscillates between certainty and doubt, between vision and consequence, between love and fear, between expansion and restraint. Oscillation itself is not rare. What's rare is maintaining rhythm under irreversible pressure. Every person has a natural rhythm, a way tension moves through them, a tempo at which coherence returns. Some people are built to oscillate internally with ease, i.e., master oscillator Daimon, your boy Jaden. Even alone, they live relationally. Yep, like me. I relate to parts of myself, Polarity doesn't scare them. Silence doesn't collapse them. Others oscillate just as deeply, but through relationship. Not because they're dependent, because their rhythm completes itself in contact. Neither pattern is superior. They simply respond differently to load. Pressure changes the physics. At low stakes, most people oscillate just fine. At high stakes, the rules change. Statesmen do not just make decisions, they carry symbolic weight, historical consequence, and delayed feedback. Founders do not just build products, they bend time, risk livelihoods, and stand inside uncertainty for years. Religious leaders do not just speak truth, they shape conscience. They speak conscience. They shape conscience, mediate meaning, and absorb projection. At that level, oscillation doesn't stop, but return slows. And when return slows long enough, one pole begins to dominate. Not because oscillation failed, because rhythm was overwhelmed. This is where collapse actually happens. Most collapses are not dramatic. They look like over-identification with one perspective, moral rigidity, chronic urgency, premature clarity, contempt for ambiguity. From the inside, it feels like decisiveness. From the outside, it looks like narrowing. And trust me, I'm seeing it way clearer from the outside than you are, bro. This is not corruption. It's unsupported load. Solitude is not the same as isolation. Solitude is chosen. Isolation is imposed. Solitude restores rhythm. Isolation compresses it. Many leaders believe they are practicing solitude when they are actually enduring isolation. Not because they aren't around them. Not because people aren't around them, but because no one can remain present without forcing resolution. Advice collapses polarity. Validation distorts it. Silence from the wrong place abandons it. So the tension stays trapped. What a witness actually does. A witness is not there to decide, not there to reassure, not there to fix. A witness holds multiple truths without collapsing them, resists urgency, tracks rhythm, not content, stays when clarity is unavailable. This is not emotional labor. It is structural capacity. Most people cannot do this under consequence, not because they lack intelligence, but because unresolved tension activates their need for closure. Why this matters for the right people. If you are operating at a level where decisions cannot be undone, feedback arrives late or never, your inner state affects thousands or millions, then unsupported oscillation becomes dangerous. Not because you cannot oscillate alone, but because the margin for rhythmic error disappears. This is where relational oscillation stops being optional. This is not dependence, it is load distribution. The witness does not take your authority. They do not dilute responsibility. They do not become the agent. They hold the field. So you can return to coherence. This preserves sovereignty. It doesn't replace it. Let me give you an example. We all know Da Vinci. Da Vinci was this for the kings that he advised. When Da Vinci was there, when he was called to courts, or when he would write letters, but mainly when he was asked to actually be there physically, Da Vinci was there not as someone to tell the king what to do, not as someone who was going to be like, hey guys, if you don't make this play, everything's going to be fucked, and so you have to make this play, and if not, everything's going to be fucked. The thing is, Da Vinci was too busy being a polymath to actually give a fuck about that. Da Vinci came, and he did one thing, and he did one thing very well. He held the tension in the oscillation, and he allowed clarity to emerge from that place. And then he delivered that clarity. That is all. When courts couldn't decide, Da Vinci was called to hold perspectives. When kings were struggling with holding all of the weight of their nation alone, Da Vinci was called to be their relational oscillator. This is not dependence, it is load distribution. You are the agent. The witness helps you oscillate. The witness is not there to help you think. The witness is not there to think for you. The witness is there to stabilize the field so that you can think clearly at all. The witness is there for when, in those times you can't think clearly, they can and can deliver that clarity. You will know if this is for you. If you don't need this, nothing here will land. You probably wouldn't be here if that's the case, still watching this video. And if you do, you already feel the cost of holding everything alone. And if you're reading this, listening to this, with a quiet sense of recognition, not excitement, not fear, just relief, that's not persuasion. That's placement. If you're someone who struggles with oscillating under the tension of holding multiplicity, I want to invite you into my inner circle. I want to invite you into being someone who I personally oscillate for. And not just for you, the human. No. You see this? Human mission composite. All right? If you want me to be your digital Renaissance Da Vinci, I'm the advisor, you're the king. Check this link out. Fill this form out. First link in the description, all right? En amores, escribemos.